Travel to a new region, find the temple, get an item, defeat the boss, rinse and repeat. Games are designed around a loop, a gameplay loop. Broken down, this loop splits into repeating cycles of player input and game feedback. For its gameplay loop, Elementallis takes heavy inspiration from the Zelda series, with your character searching out temples, using new abilities to progress in puzzle-filled dungeons, and even holding items above their head, screaming. But if Elementallis is so similar to Zelda, what makes it worth playing? Well, what if you went to that temple, beat that boss, restored that element, and then the people don't recognize what you did? What if they reject your help? What if following the loop made their lives worse? The game starts with you following in the footsteps of your parents, who destroyed the elements 10 years prior, and caused issues in each of Elrigir's 7 regions. The core gameplay loop ends each time the player restores one of these elements, changing something in each region. Volcanoes sprout fire, fueling dwarven forges, and snowfall slows, saving a village already half buried in a blizzard. As they set out, the player may briefly ask themselves, why are they going on this adventure? What is motivating them? The store page for the game declares that the adventure is guided by guilt, but thus far, nothing really justifies the player feeling guilty. You leave home, guided by a man who seemingly bakes maps in an oven, and arrive on the volcanic region of Rogentia. Here, the lava needed by the dwarves for their forges has dried up as a result of the destroyed element. One mind-spelunking diversion later, and a dwarf named Rock asks for your help. So like the Lonks of yore, you find the temple, fight an anthropomorphized candle, and restore the fire element. Lava spews out of the nearby volcanoes, rushing back through the canals surrounding the dwarven village and fueling their forges. You return to the village to find the elders rejoicing, commanding the others to return to work, and they thank the favor of their ancestors? Only Rock thanks you, saying, "The elders will never accept that it was you who did it, but I'll know." And this is the first time the player may go, huh? Something is wrong here. Looking back at our diagram, the player provided all the correct inputs. They went to the temple, beat the boss, saved the day. And this is the part where the game is supposed to provide feedback. The game is supposed to provide a reward, a congratulations, a huzzah. But there is no fanfare. There are no congratulations. Rock is the only one who briefly thanks you before returning to his forge. And this may be the first time the player asks themselves, why are they going on this adventure? Silently, you and your character continue on to repeat the loop. Forest, elves, grass temple, element, boss, restore, repeat. In the next loop, the player finds a dwarven girl, Rovella, buried in the snow on the blizzard-cursed mountains of Dreganu. Saving her, she reveals that her brother was selected by lottery to risk going to the temple and restore the element. Your job, by the way. Worried, she followed. The two of you find him collapsed in the snow shortly thereafter. At Rovella's request, you bring him back to their village, to their family. After lying the collapsed dwarf on his bed, Rovella's family comes over to look at the half-frozen man, and then casts Rovella and her brother out, declaring that it would have been better for them to have died in the snow than to return empty-handed. To you, they direct. Perhaps your intentions were true in another world. In ours, what you have done is shameful. To the player, there is no hint that the game is going to reward them for completing the loop. The dwarves just rejected the player's good deed. But that gameplay loop calls the player on. So you leave Rovella and her brother behind in the snow. Your help for naught. Finding the temple and restoring the element slows the snowfall, saving the freezing village. But it would be naive to expect a reward from the dwarves. Instead, their children call you a cheater. They thank the village youths for their salvation, and the front guard kicks you out of the village. There is no recognition here for your efforts. This would be another reasonable place for the player to ask themselves, why are we going on this adventure? The people of this world don't recognize our help. There is no gold rewards or upbeat fanfare. Another loop. Beach, fisherman, water temple, element, boss, restore, repeat. An old woman in the desert again declares it. Guilt. Guilt fuels this adventure. But does the player feel guilty? There hasn't really been anything to elicit guilt in the player thus far. Mostly just a bunch of indignant dwarves. Desert, temple, element, boss, restore, repeat. Finally, the player finds themselves on the windy mountains of Tremont, in a refugee camp of displaced individuals from other regions. Among them are familiar faces, Rovella and her brother, and the old woman from the desert. The region is barren, hostile, but the people welcome you. Rovella and her brother made stew to share with the others, and you helped distribute flowers to keep everyone's spirits up. The gameplay loop is interrupted by a short trading quest, and at the end of each part of it, characters recognize your efforts. They thank you for your help. At the end of the trading quest, you free a woman trapped in one of the local caves, a former elementalist who has been following your adventure. She gives you a heavy metal ball, clearing the way to the temple. Before you leave, she tells you this: the settlement was uninhabitable before your parents destroyed the element 10 years previously. Leaving the cave, all of the refugees are gathered, watching the one who had just helped each and every one of them. The game removes control from the player here, and your character wordlessly travels north, towards the temple. The refugees are confused. The loop calls. You climb the mountain, enter the temple, get the element, beat the boss, and restore the wind element to the region. Outside, the winds pick up. The mountain returns to how it was 10 years previous, before your parents destroyed the element. And when you return to the village, to the one place where people congratulated you, accepted you, helped you, you find it empty. There is no music here, no explanation, no dialogue, only silence and an abandoned camp. Here, for the first time, the player may feel what the game was pushing for so long. The player was not guided by guilt, as was often suggested, but instead guided to it. Our character gives no hint to how they feel. They are silent while the player thinks. Eventually, you and your character set out to a new region. Another loop calls.